A clip that made the NBA hold its breath. LeBron James did not need a press conference to shake the basketball world. He only needed a few seconds, one live microphone, and one name that has already started haunting the future of the NBA, Victor Wembanyama. The clip moved fast. One moment, it was just another all-star possession. The next, fans everywhere were pausing, replaying, arguing, and asking the same question. Did LeBron just take a shot at Wemby? For some people, it looked like disrespect. For others, it sounded like the kind of frustrated praise only a true competitor can give when a younger monster is making the game uncomfortable. And that is where this story becomes bigger than one sentence, because this was not just LeBron talking about a rookie. This was the face of the last 20 years reacting to the player many believe could own the next 20. It was the king looking across the court and seeing something the league has almost never seen before. A 7'4" alien with guard skills, defensive range, cold confidence, and a mindset that refuses to treat even an exhibition like a joke. But the internet does what it always does. It took one heated moment, stripped away the context, and turned it into a supposed war. Suddenly, the narrative was everywhere. LeBron confronted Wembanyama, things got ugly. The old generation was threatened by the new one. But was that actually true? Because when you look deeper, the story starts to change. The body language was not hatred, the reaction was not fear, the history between them was not filled with cheap shots or dirty plays. What looked like tension may have been something far more interesting. Respect disguised as frustration, admiration hidden inside trash talk, and the beginning of a symbolic handoff from one era of basketball to another. So before we judge the clip, we have to go back to where this connection really began. But first, if you are watching from Los Angeles, San Antonio, New York, Chicago, Miami, or anywhere across the world, comment your city below. Press 1 if you believe LeBron was truly annoyed by Wemby. Press 2 if you think LeBron was actually showing respect in his own competitive way. And if you love real NBA stories without fake drama, subscribe to the channel right now because this one is about to go much deeper. The night the king met the alien, before the all-star microphone caught anything, before the internet built a feud out of a few seconds, LeBron James and Victor Wembanyama first shared a real NBA floor on the 15th of December, 2023, and that night already felt bigger than a normal regular season game. The Los Angeles Lakers walked into San Antonio carrying the weight of LeBron's legacy. This was a man who had survived every era, every challenger, every next face of the league headline. He had watched young stars rise, burn bright, and sometimes disappear, but this time felt different. Across from him was not just another young prospect. Across from him was Wembanyama, the 7'4" French phenomenon who had arrived with expectations so heavy they could have crushed almost anyone else. The building knew it. The cameras knew it. The players knew it. This was not just Lakers versus Spurs. This was the past and present of the NBA standing face-to-face with its possible future. San Antonio won that game 129-115, and Wembanyama gave everyone flashes of why the hype had become impossible to ignore. His length changed shots before they even left a player's hand. His timing made drives feel dangerous. His presence made the court look smaller for everyone else. Even when he was not dominating every possession, you could feel him bending the game in strange ways. But LeBron had his own answer. At one point, with Wembanyama's giant frame in front of him, LeBron created space, rose into a step-back three, and fired over the longest defender basketball had seen in years. The shot was not just a bucket. It was a message. Not an insult, not disrespect. A message, I am still here. That was the beauty of the moment. Wembanyama represented tomorrow, but LeBron was reminding everyone that tomorrow had not fully arrived yet. The rookie had the wingspan, the hype, the future, but the veteran still had the footwork, the patience, the timing, and the nerve to take the shot anyway. And when the game ended, there was no explosion, no confrontation, no ugly exchange. Wembanyama did not act like a young star who had been humiliated. LeBron did not act like an old champion trying to put a kid in his place. What happened was cleaner, sharper, and more meaningful than that. It was competition. Wembanyama later made it clear that he was not lost in the emotion of facing LeBron. He was not standing there starstruck, he was trying to win. That answer mattered because it told you exactly who he was. He respected LeBron, but he was not there to worship him. He had studied the legend, but he had come to challenge him. And that is why the first chapter of their story was never about hate. It was about measurement. LeBron was measuring how real the young phenom was. Wembanyama was measuring himself against the standard that shaped an entire generation. The internet would later search for ugliness between them, but on that first night, all it found was something better. a legend refusing to fade quietly, and a rookie refusing to wait his turn. Why the first battle was never ugly. The strange thing about the LeBron James and Victor Wembanyama story is that people keep looking for a fight where the footage only shows respect. Go back to that first real meeting between them. The court was physical. The matchup was uncomfortable. LeBron had to deal with a defender whose arms seemed to close every passing lane before the ball even got there. Wembanyama had to deal with a player who had spent 2 decades solving every defensive problem the league placed in front of him. It was tense, but it was basketball tense. Not personal, not dirty, not ugly. There were no cheap shots, no hard fouls that crossed the line, no stare down that turned into something bigger, no post-game quote that hinted at resentment. What existed between them was the kind of pressure that only appears when two rare players recognize something dangerous in each other. LeBron understood immediately that Wembanyama was not a normal rookie. Most young players enter the league trying to survive the speed, strength, and attention. Wemby entered like someone already carrying a mission. His body was unusual, but his seriousness was even more unusual. He did not play like a teenager happy to be on the same court as his childhood reference point. He played like a man who believed he belonged there. That mattered. Because LeBron has seen hype before. He has watched the league crown the next big thing again and again. He knows the difference between talent and presence. Talent can score. Presence changes how everyone moves. Wembanyama had presence from the beginning. Drives slowed down around him, shooters rushed, big men hesitated, even veterans had to think twice. But LeBron also showed Wembanyama something that night. He showed him that greatness is not just height, athleticism, or potential. Greatness is control. It is knowing when to attack, when to wait, when to use a defender's advantage against him. That step back 3 over Wemby was not just a highlight. It was a lesson from the old master. The game is not only played above the rim, it is played in the mind first. And Wembanyama seemed to understand that. After the game, he did not frame the moment like disrespect. He did not act wounded. He did not give the media the emotional quote they probably wanted. His mindset was simple. He was trying to win. That is the key to this entire story. A player who feels humiliated usually responds with pride. A player who feels attacked usually gives you something sharp. Wembanyama gave something different. He gave focus. He treated LeBron not as an enemy, but as a measuring stick. And LeBron treated Wembanyama not as a kid to embarrass, but as a problem worth solving. That is why the things got ugly narrative already begins to fall apart here. If there was real hostility, this first meeting should have shown it. Instead, it showed a clean but intense exchange between two competitors from different basketball worlds. One was fighting to prove his reign was not finished. The other was fighting to prove his future had already started. And sometimes, when greatness meets greatness, people mistake the sparks for fire. The all-star clip that changed everything. The real storm did not come from a regular season game. It came from a night that was supposed to be fun. The All-Star game is usually where stars smile, throw lobs, take deep threes, avoid hard contact, and give fans a show without carrying the emotional weight of a playoff battle. But in 2026, something felt different. The new format gave the night a sharper edge. There was structure, there was competition, there was a reason to care. And the player who seemed to care the most was Victor Wembanyama. That is what people forget when they replay the LeBron clip. Wemby was not floating through the game like a young star enjoying his first major showcase. He was hunting possessions. He was contesting shots. He was running the floor. He was treating loose balls like they mattered. While other stars understood the All-Star stage as entertainment, Wembanyama approached it like a test of identity. And that intensity changed the temperature of the whole floor. LeBron James has played in more massive games than most players can even imagine. Finals games, elimination games, Olympic battles, Christmas classics. But there is something uniquely irritating about a young player who refuses to relax when everyone else expects the night to stay light. Wembanyama was not there to be polite. He was there to compete. Then came the moment. After a play involving Wembanyama, LeBron turned toward his teammates and said a line that the microphone caught just clearly enough for the internet to explode. Taken alone, it sounded harsh. Taken alone, it gave people exactly what they wanted. The legendary veteran frustrated with the young alien stealing the spotlight. Within hours, the clip became a storyline. Fans argued, pages posted dramatic captions, thumbnails made it look like LeBron had declared war on Wemby. The phrase, "things got ugly," suddenly had a life of its own. But the problem with viral clips is that they often begin where the truth ends. Because LeBron's tone did not look like hatred. His face did not look like rage. The players around him did not react as if some serious line had been crossed. The announcers laughed because they understood what it was. It was not a personal attack. It was the sound of a veteran being annoyed by a young player who was making the game harder than it was supposed to be. That distinction mattered. There is a big difference between disrespect and competitive frustration. Disrespect says, "You do not belong here." Frustration says, "You are making this way too difficult." LeBron's reaction felt much closer to the second one, and the scoreboard supported that interpretation. Wembanyama was not being exposed. He was not being embarrassed. He was dominating stretches of the game with the kind of energy that forced everyone to respond. He made an exhibition feel serious. He made legends sweat in a game that normally lets legends coast. That is why the clip was so powerful. Not because it proved LeBron disliked Wembanyama, but because it showed the opposite in the most competitive language possible. LeBron was irritated because Wemby was real. Why Wembanyama made an exhibition feel like a playoff game. The reason LeBron's line exploded is simple. People heard the words, but they did not watch the pressure that created them. Victor Wembanyama was not playing that All-Star game like a guest. He was playing like someone trying to take ownership of the room. Every possession carried a message. Every contest at the rim felt personal. Every sprint, every closeout, every defensive rotation said the same thing. He was not there to smile for cameras and trade easy dunks. He was there to prove that even among the greatest players in the world, he could change the entire rhythm of the game. That is what made him different. Most young stars enter All-Star Weekend with a certain level of caution. They want to belong. They want to enjoy the moment. They want to make highlights without looking like they are doing too much. Wembanyama did not seem interested in that balance. He played with the seriousness of a man who believes every stage matters, even the stages other players treat as entertainment, and that is exactly why LeBron reacted. When a player like Wemby brings real intensity into a setting built for fun, he forces everyone else to make a choice, either match his energy or get embarrassed by it. That is a dangerous thing to do in a gym full of legends, because pride wakes up fast. Nobody wants to be the star who got caught relaxing while the young alien turned the night into his personal announcement. Wembanyama's stat line told the story. He poured in points, attacked the glass, protected the rim, and made the game feel smaller for everyone around him. But the numbers only explain part of it. The real impact was emotional. He made players care. He made possessions matter. He made a showcase feel like a warning. That is why LeBron's frustration should not be read as hate. It was the reaction of a competitor who realized the young guy across from him was not waiting for permission. Wemby was not asking the older generation to pass him the torch politely. He was reaching for it in real time, possession by possession. And for LeBron, that had to feel strange, because for most of his career, he was the one making veterans uncomfortable. He was the teenager who entered the league with impossible expectations and somehow outran them. He was the young force older stars had to measure themselves against. Now, decades later, he was standing on the other side of that experience, watching another rare talent create the same kind of discomfort he once created for everyone else. That is the hidden tension of this story. Not personal hatred, not a feud, time. LeBron was not just reacting to Wembanyama's play. He was reacting to the feeling of seeing the future arrive without asking if the present was ready to move aside. And Wembanyama, whether he meant to or not, made that future impossible to ignore. So when fans say things got ugly, they are missing the more powerful truth. Things did not get ugly. Things got honest. An old king felt the heat of a new force. A young phenom showed he was not built to wait quietly. And the NBA got a glimpse of what the next era might look like when it stops being polite and starts becoming real. What LeBron really says when the cameras slow down. If LeBron James truly had a problem with Victor Wembanyama, the truth would not hide forever. A heated sentence in the middle of an All-Star game can be misunderstood. A reaction on the bench can be clipped, captioned, and twisted. But when a player sits down with time, space, and a microphone, that is where the real feelings usually come out. And when LeBron gets that chance, his words about Wembanyama do not sound like jealousy. They sound like awe. On Mind the Game, LeBron does not talk about Wemby like a kid who got lucky because he is tall. He does not reduce him to wingspan, hype, or social media highlight. He uses the one word that has followed Wembanyama since before he entered the league, alien. That word matters. LeBron has seen everything basketball can produce. He has battled legends, watched dynasties rise and fall, and played through multiple generations of stars. So when a player with that much history looks at Wembanyama and says he is not normal, that is not casual praise. That is a verdict from one of the greatest basketball minds ever. But LeBron goes even deeper than the nickname. He talks about Wembanyama's coordination, the way he can catch the ball with his body turned away from the basket and still find the rim before he lands. That is not fan talk. That is film room talk. That is a player breaking down another player's gifts with the eye of someone who understands how rare they really are. Height alone does not impress LeBron. He has played against giants before. What impresses him is that Wemby moves like he should not be able to move. He bends, adjusts, spins, reaches, lands, and finishes with a level of control that makes his body look almost impossible. That is why LeBron's praise feels so important. He is not just saying Wembanyama is tall, he is saying basketball has never seen this exact combination before. And then there is the larger meaning. LeBron places Wemby in the tradition of San Antonio greatness, beside names like David Robinson and Tim Duncan. That is not something you say about a player you secretly dislike. That is respect for the organization, the history, and the seriousness Wembanyama brings into the league. The phrase that stands out is mentality. LeBron sees that Wemby is not just physically different, he is mentally locked in. He plays like every possession deserves attention. He treats the game like a responsibility, not a stage for easy fame. And that explains everything about the All-Star clip. The same seriousness that irritated LeBron in the moment is the same seriousness he praises when he has time to explain himself. That is the difference between a viral reaction and the full truth. A clip can make LeBron look annoyed. A full conversation shows why he was annoyed. He was not angry because Wembanyama was disrespectful. He was frustrated because Wembanyama was relentless. He was not bothered by a kid acting above his level. He was reacting to a young star already playing like he belonged at the center of the league. The most revealing part is when LeBron jokes that by the time Wemby reaches his true prime, he will be somewhere else, maybe enjoying retirement instead of trying to guard him. On the surface, it is a joke. Underneath, it is an admission. LeBron knows what is coming. He knows the league is moving. He knows the future has a face, and that face is not waiting quietly. That does not make LeBron bitter. It makes him aware. And maybe that is why this story hits so hard, because LeBron is not only evaluating Wembanyama, he is looking at the next chapter of the NBA and realizing that for once, he may not be the main character in it. That is not ugly. That is legacy, recognizing legacy before the rest of the world fully understands it. The respect hidden behind the frustration. LeBron James understands basketball history. So when he connects Victor Wembanyama to names like David Robinson and Tim Duncan, it is not a random compliment. It means he sees Wemby as part of something bigger. To LeBron, Wembanyama is not just tall, talented, or exciting. What makes him different is his mentality. Wemby plays every possession seriously. He does not treat greatness like entertainment. He treats it like a responsibility. That is exactly why he frustrated LeBron in the All-Star game. Wemby was not coasting. He was contesting shots, chasing rebounds, protecting the rim, and forcing legends to work in a game that was supposed to feel relaxed. For LeBron, that had to be annoying, but also impressive. Because real respect in basketball often comes from discomfort. You respect the player who makes you adjust. You respect the player who takes away your easy options. And Wembanyama already does that. He changes the court just by standing on it. He makes shooters rush. He makes drivers hesitate. He turns normal possessions into problems. LeBron saw that clearly. That is why the viral clip should not be read as hatred. It was frustration caused by respect. LeBron was reacting to a young player who refused to wait his turn. The internet wanted a feud, but the truth is stronger than that. LeBron was not trying to tear Wemby down. He was admitting, in his own competitive way, that Victor Wembanyama is becoming impossible to ignore. How Wembanyama sees the man who set the standard, a rivalry needs two people willing to fight it. And that is why the LeBron James and Victor Wembanyama drama starts falling apart the moment you listen to Wemby himself. Wembanyama does not talk about LeBron like an enemy. He talks about him like a blueprint. He grew up in a basketball world shaped by LeBron James. For Wemby's entire life, LeBron was the example of how to carry pressure, survive criticism, lead a franchise, and stay at the center of the NBA year after year. So when Wembanyama is asked about him, he does not focus only on the dunks, records, or power. He points to LeBron's intelligence. That detail matters. Wemby is not just studying LeBron as a player. He is studying him as a leader, a public figure, and a man who learned how to live under a spotlight that never turns off. Because becoming the face of the NBA is not only about scoring points, it is about carrying expectations without letting them destroy your focus. That is why the so-called feud feels empty. If Wembanyama truly felt disrespected, he has enough fire to say it. He is not afraid to speak when something matters. But when the subject is LeBron, his tone stays respectful. He sounds less like a rival looking for revenge and more like a young star learning from the man who set the standard. The internet wanted conflict. The headlines wanted Wemby to fire back. But he never gave that drama life. He kept playing, kept learning, and kept preparing for the responsibility waiting ahead. Because this is not a war between two generations. It is a transition. One man built the standard. The other is studying how to carry it forward. The real conflict was never between them. The biggest mistake people make with this story is thinking the conflict is LeBron James versus Victor Wembanyama. It is not. The real conflict is LeBron versus time. and Wembanyama versus expectation. LeBron is no longer just fighting defenders, schedules, injuries, or playoff opponents. At this stage of his career, he is fighting the one opponent nobody defeats forever. Time keeps moving, the league keeps changing, younger stars keep arriving, and for the first time in years, the NBA has a young player who does not just look talented, he looks like the beginning of a new era. That is what makes Wembanyama so powerful in this story. He is not only a matchup problem, he is a symbol. Every block, every impossible finish, every serious possession reminds fans that basketball is moving forward, whether anyone is ready or not. And LeBron understands that better than anyone. He once stood exactly where Wembanyama stands now. Young, hyped, watched, criticized, and expected to become the future before he had fully proven himself. That is why LeBron's reaction is not simple jealousy. It is recognition. He sees the pressure. He sees the talent. He sees the responsibility coming. For Wembanyama, the challenge is different. He is not fighting LeBron. He is fighting the weight of becoming what everyone already says he will become. The next face, the next standard, the next player asked to carry the NBA into another generation. That kind of pressure can break people, but Wemby seems to welcome it. He plays seriously because he knows nothing about his career will be treated casually. Every game becomes evidence. Every quote becomes a headline. Every matchup with LeBron becomes a symbol. So no, this was never really about hatred. It was about a legend seeing the future arrive, and a young star learning how heavy that future will be. LeBron is not trying to stop Wembanyama. Wembanyama is not trying to erase LeBron. One is protecting a legacy that took decades to build. The other is preparing for a legacy that has barely begun. And somewhere between them, the NBA is changing hand. What this story really teaches about greatness. In the end, the truth is much stronger than the drama. LeBron James did not need to tear Victor Wembanyama down to protect his legacy. And Wembanyama did not need to disrespect LeBron to prove that his era is coming. That is what makes this story different from the version the internet tried to sell. The viral clip was real, but the war was not. What happened between LeBron and Wembanyama was not ugly. It was competition, frustration, admiration, and transition, all happening at once. A legend felt the pressure of a young force who refused to play soft. A young star felt the weight of standing across from the man who defined the league before him. And instead of turning that moment into bitterness, both men handled it with respect. That is the lesson. Real competitors can challenge each other without hating each other. They can talk, battle, react, and still understand that the game is bigger than one possession or one headline. LeBron knows Wembanyama is different. Wembanyama knows LeBron is the standard. Neither man needs fake drama to make the story powerful. The strategy for Wemby now is simple but difficult. Keep learning, keep building his body, keep protecting his focus, and never let outside noise control his identity. The league may want him to become the next face of basketball, but greatness cannot be rushed. It has to be earned through patience, discipline, leadership, and consistency. For LeBron, the lesson is just as human. No athlete, no matter how great, can defeat time forever. But a true legend does not disappear when the next star rises. A true legend becomes part of the foundation that the next generation stands on. That is why this story should not be remembered as a feud. It should be remembered as a handoff. One era is slowly closing. Another is beginning. And if basketball is lucky, Wembanyama will carry the game forward with the same seriousness, intelligence, and respect that made LeBron's career so historic. So before believing every viral clip, remember this. Sometimes the loudest headline is not the real story. Sometimes the real story is quieter, deeper, and more meaningful. If you believe Victor Wembanyama is ready to become the next face of the NBA, press 1 inch the comments. If you believe LeBron James is still the standard, nobody has truly passed yet, press 2. Like this video, share it with another real NBA fan, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that go beyond the drama and into the truth behind the game.